Who knows what Keir Starmer had for breakfast this morning, but he arrived in Prime Minister's questions absolutely spoiling for a fight in true jalapeno mode. He was on a mission to basically create the narrative of what's going on in Britain and what's going on in Iran. And his version of the story is that he is a principled leader who has kept the country out of a war, despite all the protestations from Kemi Badenoch, who wants to see Britain at the forefront of the fight until she didn't. And now she has done, in his words, the mother of all U-turns. Now, that's a narrative which the Conservatives are saying is complete nonsense, but it's one that the Labour Prime Minister wants to fix in people's minds, because the polling shows that there's no appetite for the UK to be in lockstep with Donald Trump bombing Tehran.
Mr. Speaker, as I said to the House last week, I took the decision that we should not join the initial US-Israeli offensive against Iran. The Leader of the Opposition attacked me for that decision relentlessly. She said that the UK should have joined the US and Israel in the initial offensive strikes. Mr. Speaker, then yesterday, in the wake of the economic consequences, the Leader of the Opposition totally abandoned her position. She told the BBC, "I never said we should join." She told the BBC, "I haven't said we should have gone in with the United States." That is the mother of all U-turns on the single most important decision a Prime Minister ever has to take, whether to commit the United Kingdom to war or not.
Mr. Speaker, I think the mother of all U-turns is him saying that they're not increasing fuel duty. That is news to us, because last week the Chancellor stood up and said the fuel duty was going to increase in September. The Prime Minister told us at the start of the year that the cost of living was his #1 priority. So can he explain how a rise in fuel duty helps with the cost of living?
Mr. Speaker, fuel duty is frozen. It's going to remain frozen until September, and we will keep the situation under review in light of what's happening in Iran. But, Mr. Speaker, the most important issue is de-escalating the situation. And I come back to the Leader of the Opposition's position, because this is one of the most important decisions a Prime Minister or Leader of the Opposition ever has to take, whether to commit your country to war. The day after the initial US-Israeli strike started, her shadow Foreign Secretary said that the US-Israeli initial attacks were absolutely right, and it is a position my party supports. She said, why has the Prime Minister not actually worked with America to be much more proactive? Last Wednesday, Leader of the Opposition. We are in this war whether we like it or not. What is the Prime Minister waiting for?
However, there is a lot of concern about the conflict. One of the big concerns is also what it's going to do for energy prices. So Kemi had arrived in the Commons determined to really hold Keir's feet to the fire over petrol duty. Ed Davey had the same thing, asking for guarantees about energy bills. And Keir was not really excited at all, you could say, about the prospect of being pinned down on this. Instead, he decided to keep hammering again and again Kemi, to the point where the Speaker intervened and pointed out that it's actually Prime Minister's questions.
Enough is enough. I can't hear it. Who wants to lead the first ones out? Right, we'll have a little bit more silence. Prime Minister.
So after 9 days of saying, join the war, join the war, join the war, yesterday she says, I never said we should join. I haven't said we should go in with the US. I'll tell you what's happened, Mr. Speaker. She and the Reform leader have been spooked because they realise they've jumped into supporting a war without thinking through the consequences. And now she's furiously trying to backpedal.
The Prime Minister seems to be asking last week's questions. This week, I'm asking about fuel duty. He has said that he wants to help Mr. Speaker, he has said that he wants to help with the cost of living. My constituents live in a rural area. They rely on their cars to get to the shops, take their kids to school, see their elderly parents. And they tell me the rising cost of petrol is the single biggest cost affecting family finances. So does the Prime Minister not understand how important cars are to people in rural areas, or does he just not care?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we're working across all departments and with allies to deal with the impact of the conflict in Iran, as the House would expect. But she says about, if I'd asked her last week, her position would have been, we support the initial strikes and we want to join the war. This week she says, we don't want to join the war. I'm sorry, that is a screeching U-turn. And Mr. Speaker, this is it. In this job, you don't get a second shot at making the right call on taking your country to war. If she were Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, we would be in the war, and she would be coming back to Parliament a week later to say, oh, sorry, I got that one wrong.
Order! 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 I'm sorry I'm interrupting you, but unfortunately, we've got to stick to Prime Minister's questions, not opposition questions.
Well, certainly the death stares from some of the Labour front bench towards their Conservative counterparts shows this is a Parliament where people truly despise one another across the benches at the moment. And Keir, however, knowing that in May he has a series of local and Welsh and Scottish elections that could be a humiliation for his party and would put fresh question marks around his own career, he was determined that he was going to show the country that they have a leader who can make decisions in war and in peace that they can trust, and that Kemi is not the person who should be stepping into his shoes. Now, this is just going to run and run. At the moment, there's national security questions flying around, worries about the state of the armed forces, and as Kemi said, she wants you to believe that you have a Prime Minister who's a U-turn in chief, because he said the only time he's taken decisive action was stopping Andy Burnham standing in the by-election, which has got to sting a bit. But next week, they'll be back at it.
Mr. Speaker, he doesn't want to talk about fuel duty because he has got absolutely no answers. The Conservatives are on the side of farmers. We are also on the side of drivers. We froze fuel duty every year from 2011, and in fact, we cut it in 2022 because we care about the cost of living. Labour think drivers are a cash cow. And now, Mr. Speaker, they think that drivers are a cash cow, and now they're hiking fuel duty for the first time in 15 years. Everyone in this House knows the pattern. First, he'll march his backbenchers up the hill. Then they'll be forced to defend fuel duty rises in the local elections. Then there'll be another humiliating U-turn. So why doesn't the Prime Minister just stand up, admit he's got it wrong again, and scrap the fuel duty hike now?
Mr. Speaker, in the last 2 weeks, I've made two of the most important decisions a Prime Minister can make. The first is that we should not join the war in Iran. The second is we should protect British lives and the British national interest. The leader of the opposition decided that we should join the war against Iran. A week later, that we should not join the war against Iran and to insult our armed forces. She has utterly disqualified herself from ever becoming Prime Minister. Thankfully, she never will.